Right, everybody, super excited to start this next conversation with you. Um, we have a really cool, insightful presentation. I mean, I know so far a lot of these presentations, or I should say all of them, have been really, really insightful. And this one that we're about to showcase is going to definitely live up to that standard. First off, Shalini gave such a great presentation on the opportunities of beauty and wellness. And now we're going to talk about a topic which we sort of talked about in the venture capital trend by specifically Christian and I were having a conversation about it, which is the future of plant-based medicine and wellness. But specifically, we're going to go a little deeper, this future of psychedelic
Will you
medicine.
grab my headphones, Cecil?
So right now, I'm about to introduce David Nikzad. He is the founder of Reinmkr, Satsang, and Orthogonal Thinking, Inc. And here's some of the things that we're going to learn about this. First off, I want to give a disclaimer. We are not condoning or promoting or inciting you to take anything. We are simply educating you and informing you, just like Justin had mentioned in the Republic presentation in the beginning, the disclaimer. We are simply here to share with you a trillion-dollar opportunity, which is plant-based and wellness opportunities when you combine them together. And so you're going to learn about the growth opportunities in plant-based medicine, why you need to know about it, where the investment dollars are going in plant-based medicine, and how it'll be allocated in the future, and if time, advice to pitch and raise money for plant-based medicine ventures. In a moment, I'm going to hand the mic to David to talk for about 15, 20 or so minutes. And if there's time, I'll try to ask a question. This is going to be unique. Like I mentioned this earlier, but why I like David's background is he's been in the shoes of many entrepreneurs. He's been in the shoes of traditional investors. He's been involved with ventures like Airbnb, Betterment, and he's been an early supporter for Public. And so I thought that was important because when you can come from or be experienced with the traditional worlds of business and venture, and then you get to do something which is at the moment alternative, but in the next few years will probably be the norm. It's super exciting. So I'm going to pass it to Dave. And yeah, Dave, it's all you, man.
Ash, how are you today? Aloha.
Aloha, brother.
So are we doing an interview process or is this free flow? You know,
it's going to be like our original conversation. We're going to have a free flow.
Totally.
So let's talk about this kind of conversation. So you and I have talked about, we did that LinkedIn Live, got to know you offline on this. How is being an investor in the plant-based medicine different than the venture investments that you've done in the past? Is there anything similar or different?
I think it's very different. I mean, I don't think you ever know what an entrepreneur, we talk about this whole thing called empathy, and empathy is the idea of seeing things out of somebody else's lens. And I think when you're an entrepreneur in a space that has nothing to do with like an app where you send pictures of each other to, you post pictures or you're on Facebook, you're dealing with people's lives. You're also dealing with a situation where you're pitching something or you're promoting something where these products are not even going to be available for the next 5 to 10 years, really on a mass global level. So not to go off on a total tangent, but today, currently we're raising money for EI. And when I talk to people about EI, they go, God, I remember when Orthogonal was raising money 4 or 5 years ago, and you were talking about psilocybin and psylli. How did you know? And I think it's the idea of just knowing, like, we're in an era right now where the universe is changing. Everything is changing around us. If you go to the supermarket, things are shifting. You're seeing this idea of plant-based foods. You see all these products like bulletproof coffee and everything else. So we're in an era where people want longevity. They want products that are going to empower themselves. My conversation usually about EI goes like this. Most entrepreneurs are either, self-medicating on coffee, Red Bull, cannabis all day, and then alcohol by around 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And that's just a normal thing that you're going to see in many startups or even many well-backed, venture-funded companies. You go over to their kitchens and, basically it's whatever somebody needs to perform at peak levels. So when I look at that, I look at it in a very different way. I look at, what do I give you that is actually going to make you feel better and feel empowered? So that's really the way that we look at it. And then the other part of it is just being an entrepreneur versus an investor. Yeah, we're working 24 hours, 7 days a week. This is one of the most compliant, when it comes to compliance and following the letter of the law, especially because we're a US based company, we have to be very, very careful. And so, yes, this is very different than making a passive investment. This is being, paddling out in 20-foot surf.
Love it, man. Well, I do want to jump into I normally don't want to have a conversation about politics, but I want to talk about one area of politics which I think that will I think is beneficial for us. Did any national or state laws that got passed help the world of plant-based medicine for 2021 yet?
I mean, that's a really subjective conversation. I mean, yes, everything that's happened in the plant-based medicine world, whether it's in cannabis or it's in psilocybin, specifically what has happened in Oregon, I think what happens with all of these spaces is you don't know all the side deals that are going on in the background. And the problem with something like Oregon, which obviously we are now very connected into some of the people that are working on those laws in Oregon. You're talking about $10,000 therapy sessions, $800 therapy sessions. Our path to market, which has never changed for the last 10 years, is $1 a dose. We want to be the most effective company. We want to give you the cleanest products, and we want to be able to give access to 1 billion people. So the fact of the matter is charging somebody, $10,000 to go on a therapy session, it's not real. I constantly tell people in this industry, nothing is really real. And I think we just have to get into a point to understand that these products are going to have to be accessible to people at the right prices. You're not going to be able to do this if you're going to charge people a lot of money. I will tell you how I started my day this morning. I got a text at 3:30 in the morning, and this is, I hate to say it, a very normal message I get on LinkedIn or Facebook, but a good friend of mine said to me, a friend of mine jumped out of a window last night. Oh, so the fact that, and I don't want to take the conversation to that point, but that's why it's so important for access. It's not about, if you have the money to be able to go to therapy or have this special ayahuasca ceremony. You need to be able to go to, this telemedicine therapy app. Maybe you spend $10 or $20 to meet with a counselor for 15 minutes, but you need to be able to pay $1 a dose and be able to get some relief when you're thinking about jumping out of a window. That's just my truth. And, somebody told me today not to say this, but I've had those thoughts before. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we've all had those thoughts. I get people that message me every day that tell me, listen, I'm in the startup world. I'm having so much pressure that this is something that I feel, how do I access Silly? So, one of the things we've done at EI Ventures, because there's been such a demand for Silly to come to market, is to be able to actually come to market with specific nutraceuticals next year that are fully compliant and legal. And I will tell you, there are products on the market today, whether they're in the CBD or cannabis or aromatherapy, or as your guest before said, Ayurvedic medicine, there are ways to provide relief to yourself. And a lot of people talk about yoga. Yoga is not about going and doing a bunch of poses. I'm probably one of the most non-flexible people in the world, but yoga is a state of mind. And I think I think right now we have to be honest with people. We just went through this crazy election, and I think the best way that I can summarize it, and I'm really hyped up about this conversation, is, do we want to give ourselves fresh squeezed orange juice, or do we want to give ourselves something that's made out of a lab that internally is destroying us? And then by the time we're 40 or 45, we have cancer cells, and then, we're at the end of our life. That's not the way people need to live. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people that don't understand what to take. people don't understand the labels and the things that are going on in the CPG space. So we really stand by the fact with all of the brands that we represent, the idea of clean medicines and clean foods. You need to know that when you buy our products, they're non-processed, they don't have any fillers in them, they're not made at some lab where somebody's experimenting on something that's never been used before. That's just not real.
Yeah, no, I agree. And thank you for being vulnerable and honest. It's
Yeah,
really
totally.
appreciative. Um, I think a follow-up question I have is, let's talk about the business side, the dollars and cents side. I said earlier, and I'm going off the words you had said because we had done that
Yeah,
interview,
totally.
that this is $1 trillion opportunity. Break down the different aspects of plant-based medicine that make that $1 trillion. This is like your way to
I mean,
explain for, yeah.
the life and plant sciences industry is estimated by 2021 to be a $16 trillion industry.
Wow.
I'll break it down in the simplest way possible. The pharmaceutical industry is a $1 trillion market. The alcohol industry is a $1 trillion market. So if you look at those two markets on their own, those markets need to be disrupted. And the fact of the matter is, what we are doing is saying, maybe we made some mistakes when it has come to what we give people, whether it's alcohol, opioids, or anything else. Let's backtrack a little bit and go back to, somebody said to me in Hawaii when I first moved here, let's go back to the Aina. Let's go back to the earth. Let's go back to the soil. And I think right now we need to really look at maybe fast and mass production and everything else. Maybe that doesn't always work. And when I look at somebody like Elon Musk, which I fully respect, somebody that wants to produce electric cars and go to space, why can't we use technology to grow real plants and real food and be able to feed everybody in the world? Why are people living in tents outside of my house and barely being able to survive? That doesn't make sense to me when we have the highest number of billionaires on this, in the United States, for instance. We need to go back to taking care of one another. And I think this movement in general is about empathy. It's about dollars and cents, but it's about empathy. And it's about empathy of actually doing the right thing. And I think when I talk to a lot of people, we've lost that element of actually being able to make good decisions. And I actually believe that's because we're putting the wrong things in our body and on our body.
I definitely agree with you there, that we're putting the wrong things in our body. And I liked what you said about, disrupting things that have already been, they're the norms. For many, it's alcohol. For many, it's, some of these other things. Let's talk about one specific area that is that's one of the themes of this event. Is let's talk about mental wellness. In your opinion, what are some, plant-based medicines that are available or that will be available in the future that you think will help people who are dealing with things? And I understand you're not a medical doctor. I understand, again, we're having a conversation just as two friends sharing this.
I have a couple dozen medical doctors in my family, but that's a whole other situation. But yeah, I mean, it comes down to as simple as, buying good coffee, taking echinacea, taking turmeric, eating greens every day. It's really simple. It's like we always say in the company, how you do anything is how you do everything. I think that can apply to your body and how you take care of yourself as well. So I think the reality of it is we're living in an age where you have access to many, many different things. I think the idea of, even if you're going to drink a soda, because I have, I like the taste of Coca-Cola and Pepsi, and sometimes I have that craving. I'm going to go and I'm going to buy a Virgil Coca-Cola, or I'm going to buy something that's made out of, real cane sugar. I just think as a society, with how much we're glued to our phones and all the technology, why not use technology to provide some type of transparency to how we take care of ourselves. You know, somebody once told me, this guru that I studied with, he said, we spend so much time going to work and, you know, coming home, watching TV, going to the bar. Why not put some of that time into taking care of ourselves? And that can be going on a hike, that can be, you know, making food with the family. And I think those are the types of things that we're trying to do within Orthogonal, our holding company. Is we're trying to empower companies and people in terms of a cumulative way to take care of yourself. I tell people all the time, even when Silly is legal 10 years from now, is Silly a great product? Yeah, it's phenomenal, but it's not the miracle drug. There's no miracle product. It's like that idea of yoga. There's going to be this cumulative amount of products that we're going to use. It's like tools in a toolkit. And that's why I love Republic. I love Christian Sullivan. You know, Christian Sullivan, one of the founders of Republic, you know, constantly looking at products and investing in products that are about empowering people. And I think that there are a lot of people that have the same heart, and we need to come together and sometimes not always think about the money. I hear a lot of investors talk about, oh, okay, when am I going to have a liquidation event? When it comes to something like this, you know, maybe take a step back when thinking about that. This is a long-term goal to actually shift a lot of habit loops, and it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, no, I agree. So we've actually gotten some questions. I got texted me. That's why I'm looking down.
All good.
So what is the future of microdosing legal mushrooms? Wow, interesting. Like, I guess I want to know about the business aspects of it specifically. I don't want to get into like personal uses.
No, it's all good. What do I think? I think in the next couple of years, you will be able to get some type of therapy of psilocybin mushrooms in Oregon. I think they are going to do the best that they can. They're, you know, the people that have passed those laws, I do believe you're going to be able to take micro doses of real mushrooms in Oregon in the next 24 months. I do believe in Canada, because I spoke to the guys from TheraSil. Like, if you're dealing with end of life, you can go and take actual mushrooms to deal with that. So if I were to give you my best guess, and you know, I always think of myself as like a legalized gambler as an investor, I would say in the next 24 months, there are going to be places within the US and Canada where you'll be able to do this. I think the movement is moving really fast, but I think that a lot of the intentions of the companies that are out there are not great. They're actually not even good. They're probably all about just making money. And we need to understand that these products are probably going to be available in 5 to 7 years. And we really, really need to limit the bad actors that we empower, and really empower good people that are looking to grow longitudinal companies. I can tell you, because I'm about to sign a pretty full-blown employment agreement for EI and Orthogonal, that I'm signing up to be on board with this mission for the next 10 years. I'm very committed.
Yeah, no, I love that. And you're definitely all in. You can hear it. It oozes out of you when you talk. I got another really interesting question. This is actually better than the one I asked about the regulations initially.
Yeah, totally.
What innovations in CBD and THC legally can help other plant-based medicine initiatives like what you're doing? Wow, that's a good question.
Could you repeat that one more time? I'm sorry.
What innovations in the CBD slash THC can help with innovations?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a ton of stuff going on in those spaces. I mean, we're invested in an incredible CBD company called Randy's Remedy that's working on some cutting edge technologies. I think when it comes to lotions, beverages, comes to food products, I think there are companies out there that are really trying to build like incredible products. The fact of the matter is, like, in Hawaii, we're having this like White Claw Truly phase. And I'm telling you, every time I see somebody drinking those, I'm like, holy shit, I hope they're not going behind a car to drive. So yes, am I excited about this idea of being able to drink a CBD drink that tastes good? Oh, I think it's incredible. And I just wish that we could get to a place with specifically CBD, not even THC, because I think that THC, there's a lot of, that still has to, we have to work out some of the things about somebody taking a THC beverage, but somebody drinking a CBD beverage versus drinking like an alcoholic spritzer, like, we need to push for that legislation, and we got to get those, we need to fund as many of those products as we can. I think it's up to us as investors when we're seeing a CBD company versus an alcohol beverage company. We need to be funding those CBD companies. I'm going to tell you that I have personally broke affiliations with certain companies because I don't want people to empower alcohol. We have more than enough alcohol. I don't know how many more vodka companies we need. So I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's about empowering companies that want to do the right thing, and there are just better products out there.
My last question is from another person. By the way, I appreciate everyone sending me these direct texts. This is really cool on the questions. You talked about yoga and meditation. Speaking from a just speaking from a general, sorry, I'm just reading this handwriting here. That it was a scribbled note sent to me.
It's all
Okay, I
good.
get it. So here's the question. Someone who, how has meditation and yoga helped you when being productive?
I mean, for me, my big thing about the yoga that I perform every morning is that yoga for me is about waking up in the morning and actually journaling. So I journal every morning. I've been journaling now for about 20 years. It's something that I picked up from a friend of mine that, I used to study with. That, meditation for me sitting there and, turning on an app or just sitting there and, gazing into space, it doesn't really work for me. I have a wild mind, and most of my friends that I talk to, they're like, yeah, meditation doesn't really work. But for me, it's taking an hour in the morning, putting intentions into the day, not touching my phone right when I wake up, having a cup of coffee, and like just journaling, taking an hour for myself to say, okay, I'm going to start my day well, and no matter what's going on, I'm not going to react to it. So my best advice to people, and I give everybody in our Ohana and EI and Orthogonal the same advice. Give yourself one desire that is simple. Like, if you want to start journaling, start with like 3 sentences and try for 10 minutes to just like be off your phone. And I think that people try to, like, even with like microdosing and ayahuasca and things, they're like, oh, I want to take a heroic dose of 25 milligrams. Let me just tell you, bad idea. Start small, escalate slowly, keep your desires low. You're never going to be great at everything, and you're never going to be great at a lot all at once.
Okay. Well, we are reaching the near end part of this interview, but before I do that, I know you recently launched your campaign, and is there any information you'd love to share with us? And we'll definitely put it in the link.
Totally. So we just got our approval from the SEC about our Form C this morning. So we are launching a Reg CF next week. We're going to give everybody the URL in the next couple of days. We're coming out with a 35-page white paper that's going to include all of our nutraceutical products, as well as, what our path forward is with Silly and our transdermal patch. We're going to have mock-ups of the products. If you go to invest.sleepinggiants.com, we currently have a Reg D and Reg S. One is for accredited investors. One is for unaccredited investors outside of the US. We are also doing our Reg A plus testing the waters. We have filed for a Reg A Tier 2 with the SEC. Again, the link to register for the testing of the waters, I legally have to say this, invest.sleepinggiants.com. And yes, next week we will launch our Reg CF. And we've always said this is about power to the people. I'm going to say this again, and I've told every investor that has ever come to me, we want 20,000 investors. we want 50,000 investors. This is about a global movement around the world.
Love it, man. Well, thank you again, brother. I'm looking forward to talking to you again.
Yeah. Aloha.
Aloha.
We'll talk soon.
Talk
Bye.
soon. Bye.